Elbows up.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
And speaking as a European,
And we really have two choices as a jurisdiction, as a country in this circumstance. We can nostalgically look back and long for the old order to somehow return, or we can build a new one with purpose and partnership.
Immigration, porous border. I think our per capita immigration rate exceeds that of the U.S., even given the U.S. open southern border.
Oh, by far. We had a population growth of 1.2 million in 2023. That's on a base of 40 million people. So it's an astonishing number of people to bring in 1 year. Everyone now admits that this was a calamity.
Before Justin Trudeau took office, there were just under 10,000 asylum claim applications. And do you want to know how many? So it was 10,000 in 2015. Do you know how many it is as of the data that they released on Friday night? 291,000, almost 292,000 people are in the asylum claim backlog.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Did you hear Mark Carney during the campaign platforming any of these things? The changing the old way, these are Muslim values, I'm European. It was elbows up, and now he's lost that battle and continues to act like it didn't happen. Anyhow, he can continue to ignore the issues we have in immigration, but you'll see right here coming up where it goes. They're having this issue in Australia. They have one of these fascist type governments down there as well. Boy, oh boy, let's take a peek. We're in hot water. Canadians, it's time to wake up to this woke liberal BS that's happening. Let's take a look at how things are going in Australia.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Yeah, Australians turned out in force despite the fear-mongering from politicians and the media.
Australia is a nation of foreigners, just like that wonderful song says. From all the lands on earth we come. And Australia isn't a place where we walk with Nazis. Australia is a place that went to war with Nazis.
We absolutely condemn the March for Australia rally that's going on today. It is not about increasing social harmony. We think, and I think the vast majority of the Australians think that multiculturalism has been a good thing for our country.
Labor politicians should have had more faith in their fellow Australians. When neo-Nazi leader Jack Eltis was given the microphone in Sydney, large numbers of people booed and many left the event.
At one point in Melbourne, pro-Australia protesters even came face-to-face with pro-Palestinian protesters. Have a look.
There's a lot to unpack in the events of today, but let's start with the key concerns, it seems, of the majority of people who marched around Australia. They're upset that mass immigration has replaced controlled immigration. There was no one that I heard or saw who was anti-immigration. They were anti-mass immigration. And the other concern is that multiculturalism has clearly replaced assimilation. As a result, our country is changing. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. We've got ethnic enclaves around the country. We've got civil unrest every weekend, pro-Palestinian protests. Crime is clearly up as a result of mass immigration in certain areas. And we're continually told on top of that that Australia is built on stolen land and that our history is something to be ashamed of. Is it any wonder then that so many regular mums, dads are upset? For Murray Watt to come on Sky News this morning and say that these protests were just as a broad brushstroke hateful and divisive is disingenuous. He knows very well that the vast majority of people are not at all hateful. But even Brad Batten, the Victorian opposition leader, said anyone who's anti-immigration is racist. Well, that's the most stupid thing to say. Immigration is a policy. It's not an indictment on a certain ethnic group. You could be anti-immigration without being racist. And so for the Victorian opposition leader to just write off large numbers of people like that is just silly. But I do understand why politicians, maybe Brad Batten, would be nervous about picking a side in this fight because, as we said, these protests were marred by neo-Nazis getting involved and the lack of leadership in terms of who's running these things. That would be a concern for people as well. So I can understand the reluctance of politicians to get involved, but to dismiss it as hateful and divisive.
What, to get involved in the
garbage.
march, or you're talking about the policy in general?
To get involved in the march.
Okay, no, that I can understand. From what I observed, or everything that I've seen today, there wasn't a lot of neo-Nazis at these protests. The majority of people at these protests were everyday Aussies who have quite frankly had a gutful of this country being overrun by absolute madness, out of control, runaway immigration policy. I mean, we've had more than 1.1 million immigrants come into this country since Labor was elected. And let's be realistic, but we can't sugarcoat this, James. There have been people who've brought into this country, some who hate us, some who hate our values, some who have absolutely no interest in assimilating in this country. So I say good on those people for getting out there and taking a stand. In fact, I think this marks a pivotal moment. I was actually heartened to see all of those Australian flags. People had them draped over them. They were waving them proudly. Thank goodness, finally, we're seeing some Australian pride.
Well, where was Murray, calling out the pro-Palestinian rallies as hateful and divisive?
Well,
but if an Aussie flag gets waved, all of a sudden it's an extremist behaviour.
And this is the point I want to make, because let's be honest, it is not hateful to wave the Australian flag.
Of course not.
It is not hateful to love your country. It is not hateful to be proud of your country. Yet you've got the left who peddle this ridiculous narrative that it's racist to wave the Australian flag. Honestly, it's like they tie themselves in knots of guilt constantly. The absolute self-loathing is out of control. And secondly, it's also not hateful to bring up the fact that people are worried about the state of this country when you've got flags of terror groups being waved so brazenly down the Harbour Bridge, or we saw what happened at the Sydney Opera House days after the Hamas attacks. And I find it appalling that the media are just writing today with this neo-Nazi line, marred by neo-Nazis. Yes, I agree that there were neo-Nazis. I do agree, and I condemn that. It is absolutely abhorrent. We should all be condemning that.
But that's what the media does, right?
But the point of this,
the media look for conflict.
They do, but the majority... Why wouldn't you write the article? Tens of thousands of people marching for Australia, proud of this country. It just baffles me.
Because that's not going to sell papers. It's the conflict that sells.
And the other thing I would say is that I also don't think it's unfair to question the types of people we are bringing into this country, especially those who come from places whose values are incompatible with Western democracies, and that is not racist to talk about, and you're not a bigot to bring it up.
So everything you've said is correct. The question, though, is where does this movement go? So as a result of today, clearly a big movement. First question, do politicians listen, or do they continue to deride these people? If they deride them and demonise them, then we'll see these marches increase and continue, which raises my second question, and that's the question of leadership. We don't have a Nigel Farage in this country to lead a pro-Australian movement, which leaves it open to either idiots leading the movement. I don't know how a neo-Nazi was given a microphone in Sydney.
I agree, appalling.
That was just a stupid decision. Someone messed up badly there. And so there's either that or you get radicals taking hold of the movement. So those are questions that I'm interested to see what happens moving forward.
Leading up to the last election, migration was not front and centre. Actually, in the last two elections, migration has not been front and centre.
Yeah.
It is a debate that both sides of politics seem to shy away from.
Correct.
You will recall that Peter Dutton did make that pledge to cap migration numbers at a certain amount, which, by the way, leading economists, for example, Leith Van Onselen, said it's simply not going to be enough because given the housing crisis, we need to really dramatically scale it back. But they did not prosecute. The coalition were too scared to go that further on. And I can honestly say, and we've got Pauline Hanson coming up on the show tonight.
They're losing numbers to One Nation because they talk about it.
Exactly. The only party that is willing to prosecute this argument, and I maintain it is not racist to talk about migration and you're not a bigot to bring it up. But political parties shy away from it. Forget Labor. They're not going to do anything because high migration actually suits Labor politically, but they're not going to do anything about it. It is up to the coalition to prosecute this, and I do not think that they will.
And in terms of these marches and where they go, and if they get ugly, the fault is not primarily the marchers, it's our mainstream politicians, Labor and Liberal, who refuse to have the conversation.
Yeah.
If you end up with chaos on the streets, it's the fault of politicians who won't allow a conversation. That's the big issue.
I completely agree. Meanwhile, big Australia just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The housing crisis is a mess, and yet here we are today.
Does it sound to you like Australia has many of the same issues that we have up here in Canada. Deja vu, right? It's not good. Look at how out of control that is. And like they won't whip out the Emergencies Act on us once again as soon as there's an organized protest like this in Canada. It's shocking. Anyhow, what a time in Canada. Heads up, everyone.
As a European, I am a European,
European.
actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
I'm Irish citizen. Yeah, so there you
welcome.
go.
Welcome.
Speaking as a European.
WTF.
Here, here.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
And as the most European of the non-European countries,
being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you
What
sought
possible
to avoid.
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Confiance.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, thank you all very much for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Smash that subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. Canadian Federal Politics. Get yours right here. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.